Ayan, meron. Si Rika, sabi niya, excited to listen. First timer here. Welcome, Rika.
Yes, si Robert din, first timer. So if you're a first timer, type in hello sa chat box para we'd know na it's your first time.
Ayan, si Rose, sabi niya, hello. Si Edna rin, first timer. Si Larry Lynn, si Roxanne, si Jeffy. Ang dami nating first timer.
So welcome.
So, very good kasi meron tayong interaction agad sa kanila.
Yeah. So welcome sina Manuel, sina Emma, William. Ayan, and since ang dami yung first timers, we'd love for you to call in more colleagues, classmates to join us this afternoon. So we'll start in a few minutes. So you can still ask them to come in. Sabihin nyo, may space pa tayo sa Zoom room for everyone to join in. And kung hindi naman kaya ng bandwidth ng internet nyo, we're also live on YouTube. So our teammate Kelly will be sharing the link to the YouTube page or YouTube channel of Positive Workplaces so that you can also share that to your teammates, to your colleagues, and your friends.
Ayan, Gabi, sobrang nakakatuwa kasi tinanong kung saan nila tayo nakita or saan nila tayo narinig. Sabi ni Sophia from her prof daw. And si Rika naman sa Facebook. So, grabe na talaga yung na-reach natin.
Oo. Tapos meron din tayo si Liza. Suki na daw siya nung free webinars natin at inaabangan na talaga nila. Si Ella May naman from her workmate daw niya nakita yung webinar natin. So we hope that you enjoy this afternoon and your first time here in Positive Work. Yan, Joyce, I think we're ready to start. Yeah, and so again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first webinar this May, which is entitled Growth Mindset Blueprint, Pathways for Limitless Development. So we are Positive Workplaces. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we always mention this. We are Positive Workplaces, and our mission is that we co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. And we believe that these cultures are made possible through what we call the positivity ripples. So Joyce, pwede mo ba sila bigyan ng overview kung ano yung positivity ripples natin?
Ayan. So yung positivity ripple natin, it always starts with leading the self. Kasi naniniwala tayo na through learning through these webinars, matututo tayo and at the same time, malilid natin yung others. That's why, di ba, meron po tayong mga nakikita na from work now and from colleagues kasi sinishare na nila yung positivity na meron sila. And at the same time, kapag ginagawa natin yon, magkakaroon tayo ng leading cultures that will also create positive workplaces na yun talaga yung goal natin.
Yes, and nakakatuwa kasi 'di ba Joyce, nakikita natin na nag-work yung positivity ripples ngayon. And we hope yung mga nakukuha yung mga pinag-aaralan natin dito sa ating mga free webinars ay nasa-share nyo rin or nagagamit nyo dun sa mga kanya-kanyang workplaces. Okay, so we do these free webinars monthly. So since January of 2020, we've been doing our free webinars. And we are continuing this program because we know how much it helps each and every employee here in the Philippines. And minsan pa nga hindi lang dito sa Philippines, di ba Joyce? We have joiners from other countries as well. And this May, our main theme is the future of workplace well-being. And we are going to have 3 speakers for this particular month. And Joyce, can you introduce us to our 3 speakers this month?
Ayan, our 3 speakers for this month will be, first one, si Nikki Vergara, our Chief Wellbeing Officer sa Positive Workplaces. Susunod naman po si Jo Edto, Spiritual Director siya and Millennial Tito Mong siya. So kung nakikita niyo siya, kung nag-TikTok kayo, baka napunta na siya sa FYP niyo. So ayan, very informative din yan. And of course, we have Kimberly Chua, our Abundance Coach from Moment to Moment.
Yes, thank you so much, Joyce. And ulitin ko lang, pag-uusapan natin yung growth mindset today. Next week, it's gonna be thriving in the future, connectedness as an anchor. And yung pinakahuling webinar natin for the month of May na I'm sure a lot of us, siguro pati kami ni Joyce, kailangan naming marinig itong topic natin na to. It's gonna be about personal finance, a roadmap to financial well-being. So we hope that you register for all three, and we're really excited to be with you this May. And before we start, we just have some reminders. Knowing na maraming first-timers ngayon, there is a certain way that we do things here in our webinars. And for you to enjoy our learning experience this afternoon, we'd like you to follow some of these reminders. So for those of you who have other devices ready, or kung meron kayong tab na pwedeng i-open, please do so now kasi later we're going to use different tools to help us boost the engagement of the conversation for this afternoon's discussion. And of course, he'd love for you to have your pen and paper because I'm pretty sure na with everything that Nikki has prepared for us this afternoon, you are going to want to write down all of the things that you're going to learn this afternoon. And ang pinaka-importante sa amin in Positive Workplaces is that we don't dominate the conversation. We want you to chime in as well. So we highly encourage your engagement. You can use the chat box to share your insights with your other learners here in the room. But of course, we remind each and everyone to please be respectful in the chat box. And sakto, Joyce, may nagtatanong, may attendance link po ba? I pass this to you.
Ayan, doon po sa nagtatanong kung may attendance link, wala po tayo attendance link, but we have an evaluation form that will be issued at the end of the webinar. And for those in the Zoom room only. So yung evaluation form natin, tandaan lang po natin yung acronym na 10. So that's title, T for title. So yung title po, paki-check na lang po kung growth mindset yung title later. And yung email, paki-write po yung email na meron po kayo na working para hindi na po siya mapupunta sa spam or maliligaw elsewhere. And write your full name na gusto niyo pong makita sa certificate kasi hindi na po yan mabab. And ayan, so for any concerns about evaluations or certificates, you may email us at engage@positiveworkplaces.org. So ako rin po yung makakausap nyo dyan. And we will only be entertaining inquiries regarding evaluations and certificates up to 1 week after the event. So, ayun.
Ayan, thank you so much, Joyce, for those reminders. And I think it's really time for us to start our discussion this afternoon, and we'd love to introduce to you our Chief Wellbeing Officer, Nikki Vergara. Hi, Nikki!
Hey, Gabby. Hi, Joyce. Hi, everyone. So, are we ready to start the session? Okay, so I'm going to be sharing my screen with everyone. So, welcome to our session where we're going to be focusing on growth mindset. I'm Nikki. I'm the Chief Wellbeing Officer of Positive Workplaces. I really love psychology. I've been studying it for over a decade, and any chance I can get to learn more about strengths, positive psychology, I do so. So I have a master's in applied positive psychology from the University of Melbourne, and also a master in counseling psychology from Ateneo de Manila University. If you've been with us for a long time, you know I really love strengths. I'm an accredited strengths profile practitioner as well. So this is going to be our topic for the month. Something that I wanted to share with everyone is that in positive psychology, we studied so many well-being frameworks, like for instance, PERMA by Martin Seligman, or the self-determination theory by Ryan and Deci, or there's even Gallup frameworks of well-being. So I've been studying so many different frameworks of well-being, some based in the US, some in Australia, some in New Zealand, and there really are so many different components to well-being. I want to ask you this question. What are the components of well-being for you? Like for you, ano ang ingredients ng well-being? You can join us on Mentimeter. Our team has pasted the link. You can also scan the QR code that is on the screen or go to menti.com and then type in this code 76470143. It's always going to be at the top. So before we dive into our session on growth mindset, let's give an overview. What are the components of well-being for you? And let's see some of your answers. Again, relationships. This is a very insightful. In fact, a lot of studies show that relationships is going to be your biggest predictor of well-being. Another person said having the right mindset, having peace of mind. A lot of people are saying that now. Self-care, mental health, having a health could be part of it. Being productive, self-actualization, security. That's a very interesting component that you're sharing. Someone said healthy lifestyle and healthy relationships with your family and workmates. So I can sense from your answers that these are the things that have been really important for you to feel a sense of well-being. Some people are saying having that life satisfaction or educational attainment, financial status, psychosocial and role performance of the family. Some are saying it's both emotional and mental. Some are saying gratefulness is part of it. Self-love, time management, spirituality, contentment. So thank you so much for sharing all of the different components for you. I want to share with you the study that we did in positive workplaces. So I've been studying well-being science and the research that bloomed from so many different countries. And while I do really appreciate all of those researches, all of those frameworks, to me, what I learned is that every context will have its own ingredients of well-being. Every context will have subtle changes and nuances. And I think it's really important that we don't just study Filipino well-being from the lens of another country or a researcher from another country. I think because it's so important to appreciate the uniqueness or the special ideas that Filipinos bring when it comes to well-being. Because we're looking at Filipino well-being, we should also be asking Filipinos what comprise their well-being. Para sa akin, it's not enough na titingin lang tayo sa research that have been published in other countries. It's so important. Tignan din natin yung sarili nating konteksto. So let's take a deeper look at well-being in the Filipino context. I'll share with you the research that we did. So our team researched on global and Filipino employee well-being. We studied a lot of researches over the last couple of years. And when we were able to identify ano ba yung mga factors na sinasabi ng mga research ay mahalaga para sa Filipino well-being, we then created hundreds of survey items to measure those different components that they said. Literally hundreds of survey items we've created, and we trimmed it down to about 100 questions, and then we had over 800 Filipino employees answer that. I know a lot of you in this community have been a big part of us getting this research off of the ground because you answered our survey, and for that I'll always be eternally grateful because that was a lot of questions that you had to answer, and 800 Filipino employees answered that survey. What was the result of that survey? So you can just imagine, we did a statistical analysis called factor analysis. And I know it's geek speak, but let me just briefly and simply explain that to you. All of the many questions and survey items we put in there, we're measuring different components of well-being. We wanted to really understand well-being from the Filipino context. So when we threw in that 100 questions out there to the 800 people who answered, we were then able to run a factor analysis, which basically is a statistical analysis that allows those similar questions to group themselves together. And what determines the similarity or the relatedness of the questions is not my judgment, or it's not the researcher's judgment of, itong mga to grouped together. It was actually the 800 Filipinos who answered that survey. Based on how you answered it, we ran that statistical analysis, and we found that there were 4 major clusters of Filipino employee well-being. And I'm going to reveal that to you. So you can imagine that statistical analysis allowed the related items. Imagine that they are like family members and they start finding each other and clustering together. Nagkumpul-kumpul yung mga related items. And when we studied and looked at those items, our job as researchers was simply to label it or make sense out of the groupings of these items. But it was really the 800 Filipinos who took part in that study who allowed these insights to come about. So when we looked at those different components, we were able to identify that there are 4 domains of Filipino employee well-being that is really very critical for the Filipino workforce to experience well-being. The first is character. The second is career. The third is contentment. And the fourth is connectedness. I'll explain that a little bit more. Character is psychological well-being and the experience of positive emotions. You can imagine that the items here include things like you being able to see your challenges as an opportunity for growth, you being able to experience happiness, joy. Another component is career. This one is more context specific. It's the experience of well-being in the workplace. So the items here are about your relationship with your boss. Are you able to approach your boss for guidance? Do you enjoy, or are you friends with a company that you have at work? Are you friends with your colleagues at work? Do you think you're good at the job that you're doing? That is another component of Filipino employee well-being. The third one is contentment. This is life satisfaction. Are you happy with your living conditions? Are you satisfied with your salary? This is the component that measures your financial well-being. And for that one, we are very privileged that Kimberly Chua is going to be doing a webinar for us on personal finance. So don't miss out on that because there's more insights to that component. This last component, which is very Filipino, which emerged and is very different from the other Western frameworks that I've studied, it's connectedness. This is the role of family, spirituality, and it's having a sense of purpose. So if you feel that your job is meaningful to you, you find purpose in the work that you do, you have a good relationship with your family. These are all measured in this component. And we're very lucky that Joed Tome is actually going to be doing a webinar on us to really help us enhance that component. And today, what I'm going to be sharing with you is growth mindset and how having a growth mindset can actually boost these 2 domains. Both character, in your personal life, a growth mindset can really help you out, but it can also really help you out in your career. So that's what I'm going to be discussing with you today in our session, Growth Mindset Blueprint, Pathways for Limitless Development. Before I start, I really wanted to tell you why growth mindset is such a personal savior for me. Even before I started studying growth mindset, having this mindset, even before I studied it on a more research level, I already felt its impact in my life. I shared this with some of you, but I wanted to share it with more of you that this is my personal story. So what you're seeing on the screen are actual clippings of a report that was created for me when I was 5 years old. It says there, Nikki was brought to the center by the mother for a possible intervention in reading. She is 5 years old and is noticed to have difficulty in reading. Nikki's present school advised her parents to seek assistance in the area of difficulty. So all my teachers have been flagging. You can imagine that ever since I was in preschool, my teachers have been flagging my parents. Preschool, uh, grade school, my teachers have been flagging my parents, and Nikki is severely lagging behind. This is just one of the examples that I can bring up and show to you that I really wasn't doing well in school. I was way behind all of my other peers. So you can see that's how I spent at 5 years old, when late 5 years old na to, when most of my friends could already write down these words. This is how I spelled it. Blue was like bow, pink was pick. So you can see that I was really behind with all of my peers. And this continued up to my grade school life. It went on and on. I was really falling behind in school. I even got bullied for being such a slow learner in school. But I think starting here never stopped me. As you can see, I'm not bragging, but I am very proud of it. I have 2 master's degrees. I got into my dream university, both Ateneo and the University of Melbourne. I never allowed having these challenges keep me from developing and growing. And I think a big reason for that is actually my dad, which makes me a bit emotional. But whenever my older siblings, they would bring in their grades, they're always top of their class, they're always naturally doing so well in school. And my report card didn't look so good. But my dad would always tell me, what matters more to me is that you are trying. And so with that, I had this love for just trying and growing with the process, because I really felt that it's not just about the results, the immediate results. The process of developing, the process of trying was so rewarding for me, because my dad really valued it. So my dad would always notice if I'm working extra hard, or if I'm spending extra time to study so that I would pass. He would always notice that and praise me for it. So growth mindset has had a huge impact in my life. I wouldn't be where I am today if my dad did not instill that growth mindset in me. And that's why I want to really spread it and share it with more people. No matter what challenges you face in life, this mindset could really make such a huge impact in your life and in the lives of others. So this is going to be our learning roadmap for today. Let's start off with why. Why is growth mindset important for the emerging future? If you feel that you don't have a growth mindset yet, you could still, you're here with me now, you're here with us learning now. It will be very critical to really absorb the lessons that we have to share so that it can prepare you for the emerging future. We'll talk about what is the growth mindset. We'll distinguish it from a fixed mindset. And lastly, we'll also talk about how we can create pathways for limitless development. We'll give you very practical steps that right after this webinar, you can carry with you. So let's start with why. Why is growth mindset important for the emerging future? So I love learning about these strategic things from my business partner, John. He would always say, there are black swan events. There are extremely rare events that have a large impact and potentially severe consequences in the world. If you are able to capitalize on these events, if you're able to understand it, anticipate it, prepare for it, deal with it, that could mean the difference between success and failure. So let's look at those black swan events that have been affecting us and those emerging trends. For instance, digitalization and hybrid work. This came from the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, it really shifted us and the way that we think about work. Work is not just something that you have to do in an office. It's something that you can do anywhere, and that really accelerated the rapid demand for digitalizing and for knowing how to navigate the digital world. Another one, another emerging trend that we have, and I feel that many of you are already learning about this. It started off with the hype behind ChatGPT. Google came out with its own Bard. You're seeing it a lot in the news. As AI advances, will human workers disappear? And a lot of people are already predicting AI could replace an equivalent of 300 million jobs. There are so many things that humans used to do, but now AI is competent at doing. I even got chills when I saw the interview of a former employee of Google saying that he really had a lot of contributions towards developing AI, but he quit his job when he saw how scary it was getting. He said it could be, if wielded in the wrong hands, it could really be a threat, because for the first time in the history of the earth, we've developed something that is smarter than us. So there are threats here as well, and there are changes that will happen in the world because of artificial intelligence. That's another trend. Here's another trend that a lot of people have been reaching out to me about. Um, we are we are getting more and more diverse in our workplace. We work in multi-generational workplace where now there is an emergence of Gen Z employees. We're becoming more diverse, and a lot of Gen Z employees are entering into the workforce. A lot of older employees are exiting. So a lot of people are saying, hey, the future of work depends on supporting Gen Z. The future of work depends on you knowing how to leverage the strengths of Gen Z, but you also learning how you can support them, how you can interact with them, and what kind of work setups would be ideal for Gen Z. So, amidst all of this, we can see there are so many changes happening at work. I want to ask you, for you, what are other future trends that you anticipate will affect your work? Is it the same for you? Is it going to be AI as well? Are there other future trends that you anticipate that will affect you at work? I'd love for you to share those insights with us. I've shared with you some of the very really trending in the news, something that will affect everyone. I'd love for you to share. Do you have any more insights about something that will affect your particular workplace? Is there something that is on your mind that you feel you are anticipating and it's worrying you, or maybe even exciting you? What are future trends that you anticipate will affect your work? Let's see some of your answers. Oh, all right. Social media. And I feel it's already doing that right now. Before, our marketing was very, you know, TV ads and new flyers. Now we see that people are actually more glued on social media. So that affects all of us at work, from advertising, from learning. It has such a huge impact. Technology as well is advancing every day. Things that used to be manual must now be done through technology, and we have to learn that technology as well. There are many social changes. Maybe some that I'm reading in the news recently is that there's a continuous exodus of Filipino nurses, where because they are better taken care of in other countries, in the Philippines not so much. So there's so many social changes happening. A lot of OFWs are There's a lot more OFWs that changes family structures, that changes how we relate with families here. Another said everything will be automated and there's going to be no more need for manpower. And that's true. Every day, more things are becoming more automated. That includes farming, that includes lifting things. So many things that we relied on manpower before will now start to rely on technology. Lots of people are seeing AI and automation. We're possibly facing economic challenges. We're seeing this already happen in other parts of the world, like the US and Europe. Some are catching on. I've been hearing talks about this from a couple of years back, but now that I'm reading up on it, there's more and more workplaces and companies that are adopting a 4-day work week as well. Inflation is affecting all of us, from manufacturing to giving salary. Inflation is a big thing, from pricing as well. There's the emergence of influencers, and just as the word says, they can really influence us way more than other people can. There's one person highlighting a specific Gen Z issue. They say the gratitude levels of Gen Z, it seems that it's not being satisfied. Potentially, things happening in our environment could be an earthquake, a hybrid work arrangement, maybe war robots, more robots happening, more cashless transactions, more streaming. Mental health is becoming a bigger issue in more workplaces. So thank you so much for all of these things that you're putting in here. All of this are going to affect work. And that just means what worked before may not necessarily work in the future. So your capability that allowed you to survive before may not be sufficient for the future. And so that's why growth mindset is going to be so important for all of us. It helps us become more adaptable. It helps us cope with changes and trends. When we have a growth mindset, it allows us to welcome uncertainty, because instead of thinking, oh, I can't do this, you can think, oh, I can develop the skills that will allow me to deal with this change. A growth mindset helps us to learn from failures and build self-esteem. And so that confidence that we can get from a growth mindset is going to be really critical in allowing us to navigate the future of work. So we talked about why growth mindset is so important, especially with this future that is emerging. What is the growth mindset? So often, especially if you're young or still naive, people think that this is what success looks like. It's a straight line and you just improve. But in reality, especially with more experience, you realize that this is what success really looks like. There's a lot of detours, errors, movements. It's not a straight line. There's often many times when you feel that you are moving backwards as you are trying to progress. But that's really what success looks like. It's important that we have a growth mindset, because growth mindset will help us succeed. In a growth mindset, this is written by Carol Dweck. She researched about this and really popularized the movement. She said in a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just a starting point. This view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. So sometimes we think that, oh, you have the brains, you have the talent, therefore you can do it. But growth mindset really says, basic abilities, they can be developed. The brains and talent, starting point lang yan. But really, if you have this growth mindset, you can really develop your abilities. It's different from a fixed mindset. So fixed mindset is like, skills and abilities cannot be changed or developed. You were born with that. And, it's just the luck of the draw. Were you lucky you were born smart? Or were you lucky you were born talented? Because that is what it is already. But a growth mindset says skills and abilities can be improved through hard work, training, and perseverance. So if you put the effort there, you can grow. A fixed mindset says it sees the success of others as a hindrance to their progress and avoids challenges. So when you have a fixed mindset, sometimes, kunwari, I have a fixed mindset. I'm good at this. I'm good at, let's say for me, my specific example is I'm good at training. I did feel that I was good at it for a long time, but I recognized there was a fixed mindset in me when the pandemic happened. Because I started to think, oh gosh, I'm good at training, but when it's face to face, not when it's digital. So if I didn't have a growth mindset, I would have not ever had webinars or took a chance to really try digital trainings and digital tools because I don't want to threaten my notion of myself that I'm good at trainings. So a growth mindset is capable of adapting to new challenges even if you put yourself at risk for failures and mistakes and making yourself very vulnerable that what you're good at you can still grow and become better and what you're good at can emerge as you try a different challenge. So in a fixed mindset, people have a fear of failure and they're less innovative because like I said, you're going to be more attached to your notion of who you are. And so you don't want to put yourself at risk. You don't want to try something new. You don't want to try something different. You don't want to go for the extra challenge if there's a threat that it might make you look incompetent to other people. Sasabihin mo, ay wag na lang kasi baka isipin nila bobo ako, baka ma-reveal talaga na bobo ako. That really comes more from a fixed mindset. Whereas in a growth mindset, failures are not seen as setbacks, but opportunities to learn. So it's so important to develop a growth mindset. I want to ask you, do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset when it comes to different things? Just so we can distinguish the two. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't have a growth mindset in all things. I catch myself having a fixed mindset in many things. So you can scan the QR code or click on the link, the Menti link in the chat box. I want to ask you, I'm going to give you a series of activities, skills. I want to ask you, do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset when it comes to this? When it comes to drawing, do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? Whenever I do workshops and there's a part where I want people to be creative, I want them to unlock or unleash that creative side of them. And I put drawing activities in there. I always hear people saying first, I don't know how to draw. So, or sorry, di ako marunong. So, I know a lot of us adults still have a very fixed mindset when it comes to drawing. Ella said that as well in the chat box. But for many of you, you have a growth mindset when it comes to this. Interesting. Here's another one, playing volleyball. Do you have a growth mindset here or a fixed mindset? In the team, John, Kelly, they're really good at volleyball. So there was a volleyball court in John's place in Cavite. And then he said, oh, who wants to play volleyball? And then I said, automatically, not me, I suck. So that actually was me catching myself na, oops, there's my fixed mindset. Instead of thinking na, I can learn this. No, first thing I said was, not me, I never want to play this. I suck at this. So I can see that a lot of people have a fixed mindset when it comes to playing volleyball as well. And 41 have a growth mindset. How about this one? Public speaking. Do you have a growth mindset when it comes to this or a fixed mindset? They did this research and they said that people's number 2 fear next to death is actually public speaking. So it's very interesting that more people here have a growth mindset when it comes to this. rather than a fixed mindset. There are people who say, oh, you know what? Don't give me any opportunities to speak in front of people. Hindi ko kaya, kakabahan lang ako. So that's more of like a fixed mindset. But if you feel that you can grow and develop this skill, that's a growth mindset. And how about leading teams? When it comes to being a leader and having that skill to lead teams, do you have more of a growth mindset or do you have more of a fixed mindset when it comes to that? Oh, interesting. Now the scale is tipping to the growth mindset side. And it sounds to me like we are attracting the type of people who really feel that they can develop their leadership competency. I really do believe that an inherent, it's not a trait that you were born with. It's actually something related to a set of skills that you can develop. So more people here in this room have a growth mindset when it comes to leading teams. How about singing? Do you have a growth mindset here or a fixed mindset when it comes to singing? Okay, I gotta be really honest. I always tell people I can't sing, I'm tone deaf. I'll only sing to my trusted friends who are open to hearing my bad voice because I have such a fixed mindset when it comes to singing. But here it looks like some people have a growth mindset to it and some people have a fixed mindset towards it. It's good that you recognize that. How about researching? And this is my last question on this area. How about researching? Do you have a growth mindset when it comes to being able to research? Or do you have a fixed mindset? Some people say, hindi ko kaya yan. Let's allow other people to be the ones to do it because I can't do it. Whereas other people, a lot of people here are saying, oh, they have a growth mindset when it comes to this. I can learn and develop this skill. So thanks for sharing that. It's just good to be aware that we have different we have a growth mindset and a fixed mindset depending on the activity or the task. Sometimes people have a general growth mindset towards things, but when you look at very specific tasks, sometimes we have a growth mindset for it, and sometimes our mindset is more fixed. So let's talk about how can we create pathways for limitless development through the growth mindset. Limitless development means you have to grow. So here's our acronym for grow. The first is goal set. Set your goals. The second is recognize that fixed mindset, just like what we did earlier. O is to own your failures, and W is to work with strengths. So we'll unpack that with all of you. So G stands for goal set. Set a target for growth. Sometimes people won't even be inclined to ignite their growth mindset if they have no goal or no target to move forward with. The more meaningful your goal, the more invested you will be in pursuing growth to achieve it. You can create pathways for growth to achieve the goal. Here's an exercise that I would really want for all of you to do. We're going to do it really briefly in this session, but I really want you to continue to do this. So I want you to think about your best possible self over the next few months. Imagine that things have gone as well as it possibly could have. You've worked hard and succeeded at accomplishing your goals. Try to think in your mind, oh, what would you be doing if, assuming you've already succeeded, what does that look like to you? What are people saying about you? What would an article written about you say to the world? What will your accomplishments be? How would you feel? What would your lifestyle be like? This is an exercise that I really love, that I encourage you to, take a screenshot of this, continue to do this, because this best possible self is actually a positive, evidence-based, positive psychology intervention. The best possible self exercise research has shown that people who do this believe that the future that they imagined is going to be possible. They're going to be optimistic. They're going to be more mindful of opportunities that align to that best possible self. And they are going to take steps towards reaching that goal. So you can imagine this in different dimensions of your life. If you take me seriously, I really want you to, when you wake up or find a pocket of time in your day, imagine in 2 years, what will your career look like? In 2 years, what will your family life look like? What will your health look like? And give yourself permission to believe that you can succeed. That's why the prompt is you've already succeeded. You've worked hard, you've achieved your goals. That's the prompt. So I don't want you to dream conservatively. I want you to be really ambitious. You already assume that you've worked hard and everything had gone well. Let me show you a snippet of me doing this as my homework. I did this as my homework in 2019 while I was studying the Master of Applied Positive Psychology. Kasi syempre, if we're gonna learn about all of these positive psychology interventions, we have to use it on ourselves first before we start advocating it to other people. And so that is what I did. That was my homework. I had to dream about my best self with that prompt, that same prompt. And I did a 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I was really ambitious with my 2 years. This is an actual snippet from my journal. I never show my journal to anybody else, but this one I will show to you. So I wrote this in August 2019 at 10 a.m. It said there that I will have my own consulting company that is dedicated to helping people become their best self. I'm able to design engaging and innovative workshops. To be honest, when I was writing this, I had no clue how I was going to make this happen because my background has always been in education. I have no clue what consultants do. I have no clue about starting a business. I had no clue about how I was going to do any of this. But when I closed my eyes and imagined my best possible self and just really gave myself the permission to be ambitious, that's what came out. So that's what I wrote on that paper in August 7, 2019. And as many of you know, it didn't even take 2 years. We were already kickstarting positive workplaces by the start of the pandemic. By April 2020, we were already doing our first webinars. So let me go back to the effect of the best possible self exercise on me. I allowed myself to really be vulnerable and say what it is really that I dream about. And so I started being more optimistic as I envisioned that. And then when I saw people that I could possibly collaborate with, like for instance, John came from a very high paying corporate career. He's already climbed that corporate ladder, but I had the guts to approach him and say, hey, John, why don't we talk about how we're going to make an impact to the Philippines when we get home from our studies? I started becoming more mindful of opportunities that align to that best possible self, all because I gave myself the permission to dream about that for a moment. So that was my career. That was in my career area. I wanted to do this exercise for all areas. Like think about your family, think about the health that you want to have. If there are other dimensions in life that you would want to really improve or something that you really want to envision, feel free to put those other dimensions in there, like your school life or your relationship with your peers, with your friends. It's up to you what you want to imagine for those next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. But this is what I did, and I really got it. I don't think I would be where I am now had this homework not been assigned to me. So I'm so grateful for this homework, and I hope you could do it as well. So I want to ask you, what is a meaningful goal to you? And again, dream freely. What is a meaningful goal to you? The nice thing about Mentimeter is that it is completely anonymous. So I won't even know who said what. Even if you're here with your friends or people that you know, they're never gonna trace it back to you. Sometimes you get so shy about articulating our goals because we have that fear that, oh, I don't want to see it kasi baka mapahiya ako pag hindi siya mangyari. I understand that, but Mentimeter, completely anonymous. Allow yourself this moment to just articulate what is a meaningful goal to you. What do you envision for yourself in the future? Let's see some of your answers. Thanks for being vulnerable. Having a better life. I'd love for you to really say, oh, what would that better life look like? Your family being healthy and productive. Um, Something that helps people realize their potential through you. Is that a career you want to be in? Oh, I love this. Very concrete. Someone said, I want to be a successful resto owner. So thanks for sharing that with us. You want to be happy, you want to have peace of mind, you want to have stability, both spiritually, emotionally, and financially, and that does take some effort, right? Someone here wants to work in a cruise ship. I wonder what you want to do in the cruise ship. Feel free to really imagine that. Do you want to perform there? Do you want to cook there? Do you want a specific job there? Inspiring people. I like this, shopping without checking the price tag. Na you feel na you have enough budget, maluwag na, that you don't have to look at the price tag all of the time. I like this, being a rich tita with your own business. You want career growth and a better life with your family. Maybe that is spending more time with your family. Someone here wants to be a millionaire. Don't forget to catch Kim Chua's session on our last webinar for this. Many people here are wanting financial freedom and actually want to go away from the corporate world. Someone wants to contribute to Filipino psychology and raise mental health awareness and create jobs for Filipinos. A lot of people talking about travel, being happy, best dual list. Oh, I wonder what that is. Very interesting. Getting the director role in your organization, having a successful business, getting your PhD, having a contented family, being a professional makeup artist, having enough money, having your own organization for individuals suffering and mental health. Yes, we need that. I really would love for you to push for that. To be able to buy your mom a house. That's so sweet. Traveling, being debt free, being a mother, finishing your thesis, open a home for stray dogs, clean up your diet. I love all of these goals that you're so vulnerably sharing with us right now. Keep note of those things. So the next tip that I have for you is now create your individual development plan. We've mentioned this simple template in a number of webinars before. If this is your first time, take a screenshot. If you've heard about this before, but you've not done it yet, this is the sign for you. You don't just stop at the meaningful goal. You start looking for pathways to develop the skills necessary in that goal that you have. And I really encourage you, don't just wait for like a shift in your life to happen before you start equipping yourself with the skills to be able to do all of these dreams. Like, for instance, you want to start a business. Don't wait for that business to open before you start developing your entrepreneurial skills. You want to pursue your law dream. Don't wait until you are in law school, till you start developing that ability to read a lot of readings and to memorize things. If you want to be a professional makeup artist, don't wait till you already have that job before you start developing your capability to put makeup on people, diba? Because really luck will benefit and really bless the ones who prepare for it. So opportunity is there for those who are prepared. So as early as now, whatever your dream is, start creating your individual development plan. Let me share mine with you. Um when I was starting Positive Workplaces, it wasn't this organized. It's really John who taught me to make it more organized. But this is roughly what it looked like. For me, a skill that I really had to develop was instructional design. I had to be good at creating learning experiences for other people. And so a component of your growth and your pathway, only 10%, is going to be formal learning. You have to hit the books. You have to study it. You have to watch a YouTube video, enroll yourself in a Coursera. Already think about where are you going to source that formal learning. So for me, I had to read journals on the experiential learning cycle so that I know how to make better training designs. A bigger component is peer learning. That is 20%. So it's so important that you get to learn from your peers as well. You get that feedback. So for instance, whenever I created a design, I would show that to my colleagues. They would give me feedback. I have a lot of peers in the education world or in the training world, and I would have conversations with them about the training that I was developing. And the biggest chunk is really experiential learning. There is no avoiding this. Don't wait. You cannot really fully develop a skill until you put yourself in that position where you have to execute that skill. Don't wait till you're a master, till you try, because you will never be a master if you don't try. 70% of learning comes from experiential learning. So some of you were there, April 2020, even before I was ready to do it. John just said, Nikki, we have to do this. We have to start creating webinars. I just started creating digital trainings on well-being. 3 years later, here we are. And if you compare our early webinars to now we are significantly better, but we started somewhere because to me, that was my experiential learning. I just had to start and then give yourself a time frame for that. It's good to put a time frame. Otherwise, some people just, if it's open-ended, some people just never really invest time on building that skill. Here's another one that is, very apparent in my life right now. Sales, I would say I had a fixed mindset in sales before. I would say I don't like it. I don't want to sell to people. I just want to give things away for free. But we all know we won't survive. Our business won't survive if it's all just free things. So I really had to learn a specific sales competency, which is solution selling. So formal learning would be reading up on sales techniques and really watching those YouTube videos. 20% peer learning for me. Every time John had a sales pitch, I was in all of those calls. And after those calls, I would have sessions with John where I would ask him feedback. I would ask for his advice. And of course, you'll really learn it when you put yourself in that position. I started doing client meetings. I listened to needs and I started pitching our products. And that really made me very, very nervous before. I always told my business partner, John, don't leave me, please. Like, don't ever make me do this by myself. But now, even if I was assigned to do this, like last minute, I'm so comfortable doing that because I really created my individual development plan. So I was able to hone these skills. If you have a plan for your growth, the clearer the pathways are going to be. So here's a tip that we've shared before. There's so many competency dictionaries actually out there. Here's one of it. But I also encourage you, let's say you want to become an entrepreneur. Really, you can go on Google and just put entrepreneur competencies, and all of the competencies are going to come out of there that will allow you to fill up this part of the table, and then start thinking about how you can get formal learning, peer learning, and experiential learning. I even did this for a friend recently. She said, Nikki, I want to become a product manager. I really don't know many things about being a product manager, but I just Googled what are the competencies for a product manager. And then we started, and I just Googled it, and research journals came out. I read it, and I started coaching her on how she can fill up her individual development plan so that she can become that product manager in no time. So that is the first step. Goal set. If you don't have goals, then there's nothing that propels you to want to move forward and grow. That's really important. The next step is to recognize where you have a fixed mindset. Really become self-aware and catch yourself when you exhibit a fixed mindset. So, for instance, here's some languages. If you say fixed mindset is saying it's too hard, growth mindset is I will keep trying. So, I want you to catch yourself. The next time you say, I can't do it, it's too hard, say, I can't do it right now, I'll keep trying. A fixed mindset says, I give up. A growth mindset says, I will keep working. A fixed mindset says, I can't do this. A growth mindset says, oh, how can I get better at this? A fixed mindset says, this is too difficult. A growth mindset says, it's okay. This takes time and hard work. And this is what I want to introduce to all of you. The power of yet. Any fixed mindset statements that you have, you can immediately transform into a growth mindset statement just by adding the word yet. I'll show you some examples. I don't understand this. Just add yet. And now it's a growth mindset statement. A fixed mindset statement, like for me, when the lockdown started and we had to shift our trainings to online trainings and we had to do webinars, I really said, oh gosh, I don't know how to do trainings online. And then I caught myself with that fixed mindset, and then I just added the word yet. I do not do it now, but I can learn it. So I don't have to do online trainings yet. I don't know how to lead a team. Maybe many of you who are starting up your careers or who have never had a position to lead others, you sometimes catch yourself saying, oh, I don't know how to lead a team. Therefore, I'm not going to volunteer for any leadership position. I'm not going to go for that promotion. Maybe you'll catch yourself saying, I don't know how to lead a team. Just add the word yet. I don't know how to lead a team yet. So I want you to create your own growth mindset statement by adding yet. Recall your dreams from earlier. Maybe you want to say like, I don't know how to build wealth yet. Or maybe you'll say, for some of you who are imagining that they would start a business and they've been employees their whole lives, they don't know how to start a business, you can say, I don't know how to become an entrepreneur yet. Or some goals that we've also read earlier. Like for instance, having a master's degree. I don't have a master's degree yet. So just by adding yet, you're already putting like a finiteness to that fixed mindset statement. Just by adding yet, you transform it to a growth mindset statement that opens the possibility that you will be able to do that in the future. Let's see some of your answers. I don't know how to interpret tests yet. Yeah, for those of you who are learning to become psychometricians or psychologists or whatever specific test that is, you don't know it now, but you can be. I like this. There's someone here with a competitive spirit. I am not the best yet, but you can be. I don't have a master's degree yet, but you can get it. I like this. I don't know how to manage a business yet. Coming from very personal experiences with starting up positive workplaces, it started even before I was ready. And this was something that I had to tell myself every day. Okay, I don't know how to do this admin process yet. I don't know how to hire people yet. But you can learn it all on the go. I'm not confident yet, but you can learn how to become more confident. I haven't published my own book yet. I'd love, oh my gosh, if you ever do publish a book, please let us know. I'd love to really be one of your customers and buy that book if that is something that you dream of. I don't own multiple branches of car auto services yet. So maybe you own one and now you're learning how to expand and scale that business. You don't know it, but you can. So you don't know it yet. I'm not financially stable yet. It means you can learn the skills to increase your wealth and to become more financially stable. I don't have that MD degree yet. I'm not good in writing yet. Oh, someone here wants to become an American citizen. I'm not an American citizen yet, but if you learn the process, if you try that process, who knows? Maybe next year will be different. Oh, okay. Someone clarified this for me. Thank you so much. I'm not the best duelist in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game yet, but you can be with enough practice, right? I don't have a good foundation yet. I'm not an accountant yet. I don't know how to make a song yet, but all of these things can come to you. So I really want you to catch yourself with your fixed mindset statements and just add the word yet to transform it into a growth mindset statement. It's quite normal that we will have fixed mindset statements, but if it's something that's really valuable to you, if it leads to the goal that means so much to you, then you can transform that fixed mindset statement into a growth mindset statement simply by catching yourself and adding the word yet. So thanks everyone for all of those yet statements that you've shared. The next one is own your failures. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to growth is our own fear of failure. Instead of fearing failure, I want you to own failure. Failing is your chance to learn and grow. Own your failures and conquer them. See failure in a different perspective and start to build your resilience. I love this acronym of FAIL. Fail is your first attempt in learning. You failed because you're still learning it. You're still in the process of mastering it. So don't shy away in the process and instead just own your failures, learn from it. This is an exercise that I really love. It's the failure log. I got this from Designing Your Life, the book, and you can fill this up. Sometimes we have a very critical view of ourselves because of the failures in life that we've had. But by doing this exercise, you'll learn that every failure of yours led to an insight. So for instance, here's mine. We have these webinars. There was a time that some of you couldn't get in because I forgot to upgrade the Zoom room, and I felt so guilty because people started panicking and going, oh gosh, I can't get in. I really want to get in this webinar. And then I just realized, oh gosh, I forgot to upgrade the Zoom room. So to me, that's a screw up. It's a simple thing that I usually get right. And my insight there is, Nikki, instead of believing you will remember everything you have to do, just keep a to-do list. And if I have something really, really important, I'll put that action step in my calendar. Now that I have this insight, that has saved me from so many errors in life. So that was my insight from it. Or for instance, I told you, right, that I've been trying to develop my ability to listen to clients' needs and pitch solutions and positive workplaces services for them. There was a time when I didn't do so well. I didn't win a client during a presentation. And part of me was feeling guilty. I was thinking, oh gosh, if my business partner had been the one to pitch, maybe we would have gotten it. Maybe we wouldn't have lost that client altogether. But instead of just dwelling on beating myself up, I saw that as a growth opportunity. And my insight there is, hey, you could really improve your verbal marketing skills. I can really improve my ability to, persuade others to get us as a service provider. Here's another one, records not being complete. I often make that mistake. There are many clerical tasks that I have that are tricky. Or like I just forget. For me, I just categorize that as a weakness. It's things that regularly happens and it could be improved. I think my insight there for the moment at least is that I can actually just obtain admin support so that I can focus on doing other things. So I love that people are saying in this chat box. William said failure is a lesson. Gerald said failure is a strength. Beverly Joy reiterated that acronym that failure is your first attempt in learning. So you can actually take a screenshot of this and create your own table. There are probably failures in your life that you are still beating yourself up for. Instead of just keeping it in your mind, I want you to put it down on this paper, categorize it. Was it a screw up? Is it a weakness? Is it a growth opportunity? And then list down what is your insight from that failure. When you see this table filled up in front of you, you realize that your failures are actually a source of so many lessons, so much wisdom pours into your life from those failures if you take the time to learn from it and get insights from it. So own your failures. Incorporate feedback, especially at work. Be willing to do better after receiving negative feedback. Sometimes at work, people will be critical of you. They will give you negative feedback. It's normal. Instead of thinking, oh, that person's so toxic, getting me down all of the time, I want you to just take in what were the insights that this person was trying to let you know. If you are willing to receive feedback and do better, then you can really improve your performance. 93% of employees say feedback helps improve their performance. A culture that I also love is sharing mistakes. When you share your mistakes, this creates openness and inclusive quality connections. This leads to improved conversations. And that means your insights from your failure will not just be with you, but it's a gem that you can give others as well. If there are leaders in the room, I highly encourage you to really start this culture by you sharing your failures with others and sharing what insights you got from it. If there is this notion that failures help us learn and help us succeed, then more people will become open to owning and learning from their failures. So here's if you're part of an organization or if you're leading a team, here is an example of how you can incorporate feedback through utilizing performance appraisals. So you can take a screenshot of this, and this is something that you can adopt for your teams. Put down the key talent, what was their position, and then just have them think back to the competencies that they have that fit the position. And then ask which competencies are missing. Like, is there something that you would really want to improve on? And what competencies are those? Then start creating a plan for bridging the gap. How can I develop or train these competencies? Instead of having this mindset at work now, oh, you don't have this competency, goodbye. Actually, you don't have this competency. Let's think about how we can support you to develop this competency. I was reading an article recently, and it said there, I think part of the article was a perspective from business leaders who spend a lot of money in developing and capability building. So their fear is, what if we invest all of this time and money and then people just end up leaving? And the counter message to that to me was very powerful. They said, what if they stay and you never spent that investment on helping people grow and develop? Sayang yung opportunity. You and your business, you and your colleagues could really benefit from the enhancement of people's capability. So start creating systems and structures that will allow people to do that. So this performance appraisal example is something that I highly recommend you institutionalize in every team in your workplace if you've not done it yet. If your work doesn't have this, try it for yourself and perhaps speak to your HR or someone or a manager in your team so that you can share this resource. It's very simple to fill up. This performance appraisal will really help people grow and develop. This is a quote from Carol Dweck. She said, no matter what your ability is, effort is what ignites that ability and turns it into accomplishment. So don't be afraid of whatever skill level you are starting with. When you put the effort to learn from feedback, if you put the effort to study and to learn, if you put the effort into practice, that is what turns into accomplishment. And the last letter in grow is work with your strengths. So Carol Dweck actually highlighted this on the last pages of her book, or sometimes in the very end of her talks. She would say, don't take growth mindset to a very extreme. There are some instances where you can take it to an extreme that it would not work for you. And in summary, it's if you ignore your strengths along the way, it's really important that you work with your strengths as well. You have the capacity for positive change. So you can have a strengths-based approach because this will help you excel in the task, make work easy, and make work enjoyable and energizing. Instead of just focusing on your weak points that you will put a lot of growth mindset on, I also want you to understand your unique qualities and what you're good at. Don't just invest that growth mindset in your weaknesses. Also invest it in your passions, in your strengths, in the things that energize you. Here's an example of mine. Public speaking has been super scary for me. If you really knew me in real life, you would know that I'm very soft-spoken. I'm very introverted. I'm oftentimes shy when it comes to dealing with people that I don't know. So what you're seeing in the screen are my Gallup strengths. So there were opportunities in my life when people have invited me to speak in front of hundreds or speak in front of a room full of people. And I would just think, oh gosh, I think this person invited me maybe because they heard me talk to them, or they heard me speak to a small group of people. And then suddenly they think I can share the same message with hundreds. I can honestly tell you the first time that I had to speak in front of 100 people, I projectile vomited before because I was so nervous about it. So I've always been nervous about public speaking. It was not really something that I asked for. It was something that was pushed to me. They wanted me to share a specific message. Here is one of my Gallup strengths. It's relator. So if you understand yung Gallup strengths, relator really means I love deep connections with people. I am more energized by a one-on-one conversation than me speaking to hundreds of people. The first time I've ever had to do a public webinar where people, more than 300 were there, I just cried the night before. But I learned to work with my strengths. So I love that one-on-one engagement, right? So when I had to speak in front of a lot of people, I tried to look at my strengths and I was thinking, oh, what can I work with here? And I know that relator is one of my strengths. I love to engage with people on a one-on-one basis. How was I gonna do that when I had 100 people to face? And someone gave me this tip that instead of just looking out into the big room full of hundreds of people, instead land your energy on one person at a time. While you're speaking, really look at someone in the audience in the eye. And when I started thinking of a speaking engagement, not as a, oh, I have to say this in front of 100 people. Instead, when I started landing my energy and just looking at one person in the eye, and then saying another thing, and then looking another person in the eye, I started to connect with individuals. That is what allowed me to not get so anxious about speaking engagements, even for something like this. Like there's 564 people of us in the room. That does make me kind of nervous. But after this, the nervous energy, it is there. But after every webinar, I would then read over every evaluation. I read each and every evaluation. And that is when I feel that I have a personal connection with people who are here. I read all of your takeaways. I read every line item of what you would like to see in the future, of all of your comments. Like I read it, and that makes me feel that I have a personal connection with the people that I'm speaking to here. So I also work with my strengths in other areas, and you can do the same for yourself. Like, for instance, the reason that I was so afraid of shifting to digital trainings was that my favorite part of teaching or training is actually listening. If you look at my strengths profile, this is another strengths framework. If you look at my strengths profile, you will see that my number 3 realized strength is listener. I love to listen. More than talking, I would really love to just keep quiet and listen. I could listen all day. If you make me listen to someone at like 12 midnight, to me, mas matindi pa yung effect nun kaysa sa kape. I get so energized. I'm filled with so much energy. So when we had to shift to a virtual engagement, I thought, oh gosh, how am I going to listen to people if we had to mute them just to keep the Zoom going? And that's why from our very first webinar, I really said, we have to put Mentimeter, or we have to put Padlet. We have to give moments for people to engage. I love to read the things that you're saying in the chat box, even if I don't get to read everything out loud. Like right there in my screen is the chat box. And I can see, I feel like while I'm speaking, I get to listen what Mary Rose just said, what Lorena just said. And that allows me to stay energized in whatever role that I'm doing. So I want to, whatever challenge it is, or whatever goal that you have, I would like you to have a growth mindset. But at the same time, I don't want you to just focus on your weaknesses. I want you to get to know your strengths so that you can capitalize on it and put your growth mindset there as well. So for you to be able to have a more strengths-based approach towards yourself and towards the people that you're working with, I highly recommend that you assess your strengths. We had a webinar on each of these ones in positive workplaces. For instance, Gia really loves be a character. John is an accredited Gallup coach. I am an accredited strengths profile practitioner. Each of these lenses on strengths have its advantages. The nice thing that I love about the Via character is that, and the strengths profile, is that both of them have a free version. Gallup has a paid version, but again, amazing insights. It's an investment that I believe each and every Filipino worker should have to be able to know what their strengths are. So work with your strengths, and along the way, track your progress and set your goals. Reflecting on the progress helps a growth mindset. So this is what my dad has always told me na, okay, never mind your grade. What's important is that you're trying at the moment. And every year, I got better at reading. Every year, my grade in math improved. Every year, I did better and better in school. So instead of just thinking, oh gosh, I didn't get an A again, or oh gosh, I'm hanging by a pinky on my subject again. Instead of me just focusing on just the result, I looked at the progress. I was I was better at 6 years old than I was at 5 years old. I was better at um, grade school than I was at grade 7 than I was in grade 3. I was so much better in high school and in college than I was in my early years in schooling. So I know that sometimes it's tempting to just look at the goal. Whenever you're feeling far away from the goal, look back at your progress and see that you've already come a long way. So track not just your long-term goals, track also your short-term goals. And like I said earlier, in your individual development plan, you can actually input your strengths there. So for instance, just like what I showed you, if you have that goal to improve your public speaking skills, what are the strengths that will help you along the way? Take a look at your strengths, results, and think about how you can capitalize on those as you try to grow and achieve your goals. So, one more thing, it's really important that you build self compassion at work. Be kind and understanding towards yourself. If you are able to spot people's strengths, let's say, oh, Gabby, you're so good at designing learning sessions. Joyce, you're so good at making reports. Also help people go to the roles that best fit their skills, their personality, and their values, instead of just pushing someone into a mold that is clearly not aligned to who they really are. Try to help people work with their authentic self because that increases motivation and drive. So sometimes people feel stuck at work because they suppress their truer self. Sometimes people have built a career on their weaknesses and not on their strengths. So really help people recognize their strengths, help them improve those goals that I help them improve those skills that they want that will help them really get to the trajectory that they want. Make adjustments along the way. So, in summary, growth mindset is so important because the future is changing so much. What worked with for us before may not work for us moving forward. Growth mindset is not just capitalizing on talents, on innate talents and capabilities. That's just a that's just a starting point. Really like putting the effort, developing, having a growth mindset, and seeing that you can't do this now, but maybe not just yet. You can still develop it. That is really what's going to be your weapon for the future that we face. And if you want that limitless development, grow. Goal set, recognize your fixed mindset and tweak it, own your failures, and also work with your strengths. So that was our session today. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, for participating. I was so energized reading about your goals and your growth mindset statements. I think we can just have a quick Q&A. Maybe we'll answer some top questions that you have, so you can actually scan the QR code on the screen or go to pigeonhole.at and type in this passcode growth blueprint, or click on the link that we will paste in the chat box for the questions that you have. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nikki. We really learned a lot this afternoon. Actually, can you just share na while we were in the back room, Kelly, Joyce, and I were discussing na, oh my God, this kind of revived our dreams because it's almost midway of the year. And alam mo yon, parang yung iba, you've already done it. So it's it's a very nice time to be able to do the best possible self-activity just so we can restart or like revive everything that we've set at the beginning of the year.
True.
So
Reignite those, pull out those New Year's resolutions and reignite it. Thank you so much, Gabby.
yes, so if you have any questions, again, you can simply go to the pigeonhole that we have prepared. Ayan, I think, Nikki, we can dive into it so we can still answer some questions. So one is, how do you survive burnout from work?
Yeah, so this is very interesting. You know what? Sometimes I said this before, but there was this quote that I really love. Maybe you are not, maybe you are burnt out not because of the things that you are doing, but because you're not doing enough of what sparks joy in you. So try to do an assessment. Are you still growing at work? For a lot of people, they get burnt out not because they have to go to work and do things, but because they're no longer seeing growth for themselves at work. So if that is a key component of your burnout, then I highly recommend that you work on your individual development plan ASAP. Really try to think about, do the exercises that we did here, the best possible self. Try to see what is that future that really sparks a light in you. What are the skills that you need to make that future a reality, and really act on that ASAP. If you need to speak to your supervisor to share that individual development plan with them, if you can speak to your colleagues about some of your goals, when you find more growth opportunities at work, that is really what revives you as well. So if that is the stem of your burnout, that doing the exercises that we did here will really help. Minsan mapapansin nyo, like, you have a lot of stuff to do, you're so tired, but sometimes when there is like a shift, when there's something new, something different, another opportunity, biglang you have so much energy. What happened? Were you really tired, or were you just tired of monotony? Were you really tired, or were you just not having an opportunity for growth? So that's something that I would love for you to think about and assess. If the lack of growth is often the lack of growth leads to burnout. So do the exercises that you saw here today.
Yes, thank you, Nikki, for that answer. So we hope that helps you if you are currently experiencing burnout right now. I saw a question about how we can share these in organizations. Hold on. Asan ba yun? Joyce, can you help me? Kung makita mo siya. Ito. Yan. Can you read it for us, Joyce?
And sabi rito, you shared about how we can personally practice a growth mindset. What can organizations also do to embrace this kind of mindset?
Yay! Thank you so much for spotting this, Joyce and Gabby. So I shared some interventions here that you can do for yourself, but it's really important that organizations also, work with you on this one. Well-being is a shared responsibility. It's We shouldn't just put the burden or the effort just on people to work with it. So it's nice that you're all attending here, because now I know you're equipped. But if you want to bring these kinds of services as well to your organization, give them a heads up that Positive Workplaces does go to organizations. We do these trainings for people. If you come into this session, it's nice. Like, bring as much colleagues as you can. Tell them, hey, there's this free webinar. We can learn so much from this. But at the same time, it's a whole other level if you are learning within the context of your organization. If you're already like with your whole team and you're all learning from this training, it does create a big difference, because that shared learning is what can translate into culture for your organization. I've also given you some tips on the individual development plan, on the worksheets that I showed you. You can definitely institutionalize that in your work. If you're not yet in a position where you can institutionalize it for everyone, let's say you're not HR VP or you are not head of HR at this moment, I encourage you to share those with your team. Try to institutionalize it with the people that you can influence. And then if people start seeing the impact that you are able to and the benefit that you're able to get from doing that, then you get to influence more people as well.
I really want to plus one on that, Nikki. Kasi we see it, diba? It's different when we facilitate it for individuals. And it's also different when we see organizations, like you and your office mates discussing the same language, iba talaga yung nagiging impact niya. So we really encourage you to either invite them to these sessions, or you can also invite us to do a session especially for you. Ayan, Joyce. Or Nikki, since we're kind of running out of time, what we can do is just answer one more question and then we'll give out the evaluation forms and then let's see if we can still answer more questions. Actually, meron dito sa chat box, Nikki. How could we change mindsets of individuals that is always focusing on the problem, where in fact being part of the organization, we must also do our part to find ways and means and probably be the solution?
Yes, thanks so much, Beverly, for asking that question. I know it's so tempting sometimes to, parang we want to take control of other people kaagad. What I always advocate is start with yourself. If you're able to really change your mindset and to have that growth mindset, then start thinking out loud in your meetings, in your conversations, start demonstrating to everyone the growth mindset that you have. And then you can start taking opportunities to educate people about changing their mindsets. Sometimes it's hard for others to change their mindsets because they grew up in a certain culture, in a certain family, or they haven't had the opportunity to think growth mindset. I feel personally lucky that my dad instilled this in me at such a young age, and then I got to study it pa, and then I got to build that culture with my team. So for others who may not have had the chance to really be exposed to a lot of people with a growth mindset, you can be the first one to model it for them. You can share the resources that you've seen here so that they can also learn it as well. It could be as simple as like, hey, saw this video, reminded me of you, or even just sharing them the worksheets, the resources. It may not be an overnight thing, but the more you get to share with them, the more you get to model that growth mindset behavior for them, the more resources that you share their way, then they can slowly learn to develop that growth mindset.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikki. And I agree. Minsan, it's also the organization, even if people try to instill that. Pero yun nga, again, we believe in positivity ripples, diba? It really takes one individual to spearhead all of these things and nahahawa na din yung mga people around them. So, Nikki, is there any last words that you'd like to leave our participants this afternoon before we close up real quick?
I just want to thank everyone for participating. It was so energizing. I hope the growth mindset that you've started here stays with you even after. So my appeal and my plea really is the exercises that we started doing here. Don't let it stay here. Keep doing and practicing those exercises because it's also a skill that we all have to build to have that growth mindset as a permanent mindset when it comes to dealing with challenges in the future. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And we hope you enjoyed our learning session this afternoon. And I think, diba, Joyce, we agree that they did. Seeing all the praises and all of the messages of thanks that we are seeing in the chat box.
Oh my gosh, Gabby, I just have one last thing.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
want to give kudos to Kurt De Castro for designing our session today. You know, when Kurt was first our intern, he had that, oh, I don't know how to do webinar designs, or I put too many things on the slides. But I think Kurt is really one of my role models for growth mindset. Pag naubusan na ako ng growth mindset, Kurt now is the one who's always telling me, you can learn this. So he designed this session for us and we hope you loved it.
Yes, congratulations, Kurt. Yeah, thank you so much. And we hope that you get to spend the rest of the month with us because we still have 2 upcoming webinars that will be as informative and as enjoyable as this session. So next week, we are going to be with Jo and Tome, and we're going to talk about thriving in the future, connectedness as an anchor. And then we're going to the 3rd C or the 4th C by the 3rd webinar. And we're going to talk about personal finance, a roadmap to financial well-being with Kimberly Chua. So we hope that you get to register to all 3 webinars. And we hope that you get to follow us on Facebook. I think madaming first-timers dito. So what I want you to do right now is to open the link that Joyce will be sending on the chat box. Buksan niyo yung Facebook page and then make sure that you like positive workplaces so that you will be updated with all of the activities and programs that we have for you in the workplace. Okay, so pag nagawa niyo na yun, can you please give us a thumbs up or a yes na you've followed us on Facebook? Yan, Nikki, ang daming nagte-thank you. I think this is really a good time. Di ba parang kakatapos ng Q1, people have just reviewed their goals. Ano na ba yung na-accomplish ko for the first quarter of the year? And ayan, I think they really, really appreciate the topic and they can really practice that growth mindset moving forward. Okay, so nakita natin ang dami ng nag-yes. And of course, as promised, we are now giving you our evaluation forms. Okay, so Joyce will be sharing that in our chat box. And please remember 10, check the title of the form that you are filling out. Check the name that you will type in kasi kung ano yung name na nilagay nyo dyan, yun na rin yung lalabas sa certificate nyo. And at the same time, if you want to receive your certificate, make sure that you put in the correct email address. Kasi kung hindi, si Joyce ang makakausap nyo. Ayan, Joyce, meron ka pa bang reminders para sa kanila?
Ayan. So, one last reminder po, dahil marami tayo, expect po natin na medyo maliliit lang po ng konti yung mga certificates kasi syempre, marami yung nag-enter ng mga data na. So, wait na lang po tayo. Pero darating po yan.
Yes! And thank you again for spending your afternoon with us. We really enjoy delivering these sessions. Kasi, alam mo, Joyce, feeling ko ang parang selling point, hindi, parang what really inspires us to do these things is because tayo din, di ba, internally in positive workplaces, we do these things, we really practice these things, and we see the benefits. Kaya we really love sharing these concepts with you, these practices with you, dahil nakikita namin kung ano yung effect niya sa amin. And we hope na we are also sharing that positive energy so that you can also create positive workplaces in your own workplace. Ayan. If Nikki's still here, we can maybe answer some questions while they're answering. Kasi ang dami biglang pumasok at the end of by the end of the hour. So if you are seeing anything na you wanna... ito, feeling ko a lot of people ask this as well. Now, what can we do when people at work don't want to change? Because it's also a fact that there are some people who don't want to change. So ayan, that they don't need to change, but they believe work environment or the government should. What do you think, or how can we practice the growth mindset when it comes to these people?
This is a tricky one kasi sometimes it feels nga na we want change but we're not gonna put the responsibility on ourselves. We'll just put it on other people. I have so many webinars in mind that I wish we could give and share to these people, because sometimes like this goes beyond to what was covered in the webinar, but a lesson that I got from the seven habits of highly effective people. If you're always going to focus your energy on things that affect you but you cannot change, your circle of concern, then you're maubusan ka talaga ng energy. You'll really end up becoming like a rant machine, because you're not getting to influence the things that you want, and that can just be a frustrating cycle. But the people who focus their energy on things that they can actually make an impact on, yes, there's so many things that affect us, but if you focus your energy on your circle of influence, then that is actually what will allow you to make a difference. So I really hope that that's that, again, I say that there's capability building that is necessary for people to have to shift their mindsets, and there's also an opportunity for you to model that. If you focus on things that you can make a difference on, if you put your growth mindset on things that you can actually develop and make a change in, then you get to experience and benefit from having a less frustrating life. And I hope that is something that you can model to others. Kayo ba, Gabby and Joyce? Meron ba kayong insights to that?
Ako, I always remember what Gio said na it's also okay because there are really some people na parang on the part of the person asking, there are really some people who don't want to change. And we just have to be ready to be there for them, just in case they also want to take that step, that plunge. So yon. What about you, Joyce?
Same with you, Gabby, na parang what I can offer right now is support if ayaw mo pa mag-change. Pero if willing ka na, I'm here also. So yeah, I think yun yung magandang opportunity din for them.
Yeah, but I also agree with what you said, Nikki, na yung circle of control and circle of influence. Because I am guilty na at one point, di ba, parang we get fixated with things na are beyond our control naman. But there are actually a lot of things na are within our control na we should focus on. Ito, Nikki, I want to indulge your input. Your input strength. Are there any recommended resources or further readings for individuals who want to dive deeper into the topic of growth mindset and limitless development?
Yeah, so I shared earlier that the researcher and the proponent behind like growth mindset and setting that concept is Carol Dweck. She has a book. You could read her book. It's a really good book. She also has a talk on Google. So you could even search for that on YouTube. And as you listen to her speak, you're gonna get so much more resources and ideas about what the next readings could be. A personal appeal that I have for all of you is, again, she usually just says this in the last chapter of her book, na sana you're not just focused on your weaknesses. Sana you also take stock of your strengths. I really highly recommend that you take your strengths test. From there, it is like a rabbit hole of so much more podcasts. Like the team now, we are so obsessed with the Gallup podcast on what's the title of that podcast?
Team Thursday.
Oh, yeah, Team Thursday. So we love listening to those podcasts. We love reading about our strengths as well. So those are two things I wanted to start off with: the book or the podcast, or sorry, the book or the talk of Carol Dweck, and also take one of those strengths frameworks that I showed to you earlier and read the resources that will accompany your results. Gabby, I know you have a strength for like having a lot of like a library and recommendations in your mind. Do you have more to share?
Actually, Nikki, I was gonna bank on what you said about strengths because I think ang isa talagang nakatulong din for us to develop the growth mindset is by focusing on our natural inclination. So, guys, gusto ko lang kayong tawagin na kung kayo nag-i-invest kayo sa skincare nyo at nag-i-invest kayo sa iba-ibang pampaganda, I hope you also invest on your strengths. So, positive workplaces is also offering, because through John, you can access yung top 5 or top 30 for Clifton Strengths Assessment nyo. Maybe we can also share this form if you want to buy that particular assessment so that you can also take, makarelate kayo dun sa pinag-uusapan namin na, ano ba yung ibig sabihin ni Gabby pag sinabi niyang input, or kanina si Nikki, ano ba yung mga relationship building strengths niya. So you can invest on that, you can fill out that form, and then someone from the team will get back to you so that you can access the assessment. Pero syempre, may kasama rin siyang fee. So, isipin nyo na lang na kung monthly nag-invest kayo for skincare, for vacations, it's the same. You also invest so that you will be able to grow.
Yeah, my boss actually gave me the Gallup code as a parting gift back in 2015, and I don't think he realized what kind of like trajectory he set me towards, because after that I became so obsessed with strengths and positive psychology, and then I got so invested in wanting to take a master's abroad, and now it has brought me to so many good things in my life. When positive workplaces, we were not earning yet kasi puro free webinars lang yung ginagawa namin. I really said, John, like, please, like, let's give this to everyone in the team as a benefit. If there's something that I would really love for you to invest some funds in, I highly recommend that you get to know yourself and get to know your strengths. And it starts with perhaps taking an assessment. So thank you.
Yes. So, gusto ko na sagutin si Mike. Mike, hindi kasama yung ebook. I'm sorry. So, if you register, you're really just going to get the assessment. So, either your top 5 or top 34 strengths. Yeah, Nikki, maybe we can do a last question for the last 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a question that you'd want to answer?
Okay, maybe the second one, especially because I know, like, after this webinar, we're gonna be so excited on like advocating for the growth mindset. And whenever someone's like saying something negative or related to the first question, feeling stuck, it might be tempting to start off with, just growth mindset mo lang yan. Like, so it's sometimes tempting to say that, but especially when people are coming from a darker place, I do also advocate that you also hear them out. Because if you're able to spend some time, letting them express themselves, that's an opportunity for you to also draw out, ano ba yung mahalaga sa taong ito? Kasi the frustrations are usually tied with values that are not being met. The difficulties could be could be clues to helping you realize what does this person really want in their life. Diba? Yung GROW na acronym natin starts with goal set. Listening to this person, empathizing with them, allowing them to express themselves can be a significant step for them to get to know themselves better so that they can identify their goals, so that they can then develop that growth mindset towards the pathway to that goal. So it may not be necessary that you jump into growth mindset right away. It might be important that you just allow them to express, listen to them, get to know themselves, and then when they're ready, you'll feel it when they're ready to listen to you and to make changes. That's when you can come in sharing the growth mindset.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Nikki. And I think we're really leaving this room with a lot of inspiration, and I hope a lot of intentionality as we all work towards our growth. So I think that ends our webinar. Joyce, we're going to extend a bit, no? Opening the evaluation form. Well, anong oras mo isasarado?
Mga 5:30.
Okay. So the evaluation form will be open until 5:30. Everyone, make sure that you have answered the evaluation form by 5:30, and the form will officially close at that time. So again, thank you so much, everyone, and we hope to see you all next week. Bye.